me urgently so we can make sure we can deliver.
Hello and welcome to another round of HughesRound. And today we are in Parliament, in the House of Westminster, Palace of the Commons. And this bumbling scarecrow bin bag full of custard is about to take questions from the Leader of the Opposition, which is about to start now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the first PMQ since the Prime Minister and Carrie got married. So can I offer my warm congratulations to the Prime Minister and his wife and wish them a happy life together. I have to say I admire the way they managed to keep it secret. Can I join with the Prime Minister on his comments about Carers Week? And can I also send our deepest sympathies to the 4 people killed in Sunday's terror attack in Canada? It was, as the Canadian Prime Minister said, an attack motivated by hatred and Islamophobia, and we must all unite against that at home and abroad. And can I ask the Prime Minister to pass on our thoughts and condolences to the Canadian Prime Minister when he sees him later this week? Mr. Speaker, why does the Prime Minister think that his now former education advisor, Kevin Collins, described the government's education plan as half-hearted, that risked failing thousands of children, hundreds of thousands of children, and not being even close to meeting the scale of what is needed?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to thank Kevin Collins for his work, and but above all, I want to thank actually pupils, parents, teachers for everything they've done throughout this pandemic. And the struggle has been enormous, and actually what the government is doing is, in addition to the £14 billion, the extra £14 billion we can be taking per pupil funding in primary schools up to £4,000 per head, in secondary schools up to £5,150, Mr. Speaker. We're now putting another £3 billion into educational catch-up with the biggest tutoring programme anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, and it is based on the best evidence that we could find and that Sir Kevin could supply.
Mr. Speaker, let me get this right. In February, the Prime Minister appoints an expert to come up with a catch-up plan for education. He's a highly respected expert, consults widely, and comes up with a plan. The Treasury balks at it and says we'll only provide 10%, yes, 1/10 of what's needed. The Prime Minister rolls over whatever he says, and children lose out. So much for levelling up. Let me help the Prime Minister with the numbers. The funding he announced last week is about £50 per child per year. And even if you add in previous announcements, in England it's only £310 per child over 4 years. Yet in the US there's a catch-up plan worth £1,600 per child. And in the Netherlands it's £2,500. So can the Prime Minister explain, when he was told by his expert that he appointed that only an ambitious, fully funded catch-up plan would do, only an ambitious, fully funded catch-up plan, why did he come up with something which, in the words of that same expert, is too small, too narrow and too slow?
Mr. Speaker, I think that the Right Honourable Gentleman needs to do the maths, because actually, and he needs to do some catch-up on his own mathematics. Because in addition to the £14 billion I've already referred to,
here comes a lie.
There was already another £1.5 billion of catch-up. This is a £3 billion catch-up plan just for starters, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, go off the screen there. Of tuition of
Stop
1
him.
to 1,
Stop him.
1 to 2, 1 to 3
He's lying.
tutorials
He's lying.
anywhere in the world.
I can tell he's lying because
and
he's flapping his mouth.
Mr. Speaker, that there are schools in this country, classrooms in this country, where children are getting private tutorials, private tuition, thanks to the hard work of their parents. He asks about levelling up. What we want to do is get on the side of all the kids who don't have access to that tutorial, Mr. Speaker, to support them. That's what I mean by levelling up, Mr. Speaker.
Who does the Prime Minister think he's kidding? He asked Kevin Collins to tell him what was necessary to catch up. Kevin Collins told him, and he said no. Who does he think he's kidding? The Chancellor's decision, and I assume it was the Chancellor's decision, it always is, to hold back the investment that's needed is a completely false economy. The long-term costs are likely to be at least £100 billion, probably more, and who will be hardest hit, Prime Minister? Kids from disadvantaged backgrounds. Mr. Speaker, if the government doesn't change course, This will hold Britain back for a generation. And here's the difference between us and them. Because when Labour says education is our #1 priority, we mean it. That's why we published a bold £15 billion plan to catch up on education for every child. We're putting that to a vote this afternoon. If the Prime Minister is really serious about this, he'd back that motion. Will he do so?
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you the difference between us and the party opposite is that we put in the tough measures that are needed to give kids a better education across the country. When we rolled out the Academies programme, Mr. Speaker, which have driven up standards across the country, who opposed it? They did. When we put in tough measures to ensure discipline in schools, Mr. Speaker, they opposed it. At the last election, Mr. Speaker, they even campaigned to get rid of Ofsted, which is so vital. They did. He stood on a manifesto to get rid of Ofsted. Will he now say that he not only supports our tuition programme, but he supports our radical programme
and then he goes back to the "why don't you support us" line.
£400 million we're now putting in. Not only
he should be supporting us. He's the leader of the opposition.
We've introduced, but another 400 million to support better training for teachers. That's what we're backing in our party. They are serious, costed.
In other words, not enough.
On evidence,
not enough.
Like anything he's producing.
Just a moment. We'll have a little less shouting from the side. Just to remind the Prime Minister, his Prime Minister's questions, it isn't about the agenda of last general election. Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister, Ofsted, was not the question. I'm not interested in what they put on the agenda. I'm more interested in you answering the question. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, let me take this very slowly for the Prime Minister. The Collins review commissioned by the government was very clear. If the Collins proposed action is not taken, the attainment gap will rise between 10 and 24%. That was on a slide shown to the Prime Minister last week. And he talks about the various measures. So let's look at this more closely. Which part of our plan does he oppose? The plan that's being voted on this afternoon. Is it breakfast clubs for every child? Does he oppose that? Is it quality mental health support in every school? Does he oppose that? Is it more tutoring for every child that needs it? Does he oppose that? Or additional investment for children who've suffered the most? Which part of our plan does the Prime Minister object to? And if he doesn't object to it and he agrees with it, why doesn't he vote for it?
Mr. Speaker, I think with great respect, Mr. Speaker, I do think I'm entitled to draw attention to what the Labour Party stood on at the last election, and that was, and they haven't yet repudiated it, they did want to get rid of Ofsted.
Still
Mr.
talking
Speaker.
about this? Sit him
I
down,
will tell the
Lindsay,
right
sit him
gentleman,
down
if he is now
and say,
saying
shut up,
that
answer the question.
He supports our tutoring programme, and that's what I think I understood from him just now, then that is a good thing, because hitherto what has happened is that the kids of well-off parents, thanks to their hard work, have been able to rely on private tutoring. What the government is now doing is coming in on the side of all the other kids who don't get access to that tutoring. 6 million kids, 6 million children, Mr. Speaker, 6 million children will have access to tuition thanks to this programme. It is a fantastic thing. It is a revolution in education for this country.
What?
If he's now saying that he supports it, Mr. Speaker, then that's a good thing, though I've learnt in the course of the last year that his support can sometimes be evanescent, Mr. Speaker.
Again, he didn't answer the
Speaker,
question.
He pretends he's here for the other kids. The report says the attainment gap will go up between 10 to 24% if the action isn't taken. He's just rejected it. How can he be on the side of the other kids? Come off it. We've been here before. Free school meals, U-turn, exams fiasco, U-turn, now catch up. The Prime Minister's been all over the place when it comes to education. And he's on the wrong side of it again. Mr. Speaker, I now want to turn to this week's G7. This will be the first major summit of since the recovery.
Sausages.
The UK needs to lead, not just to host. The priority must, of course, be a clear plan to vaccinate the world. As the Delta variant shows, nobody is safe from this virus until everybody is safe. The Prime Minister has made big promises on this, but it needs a truly global effort to make it happen. So will the Prime Minister take the lead at the G7 and do whatever is necessary to make global vaccinations a reality?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker, and actually I think what the people of this country also understand is that
I'm fed up with him saying
not
what
only
the people of this country
were we
want.
able to give one of the first
Sick of it.
authorisations for the AstraZeneca,
They love saying
the
this on
Oxford
the Tory
AstraZeneca
side.
vaccine, but also thanks to the deal the government did between the Oxford scientists and AstraZeneca, we were able to ensure that 1 in 3 of the 1.5 billion doses that have been distributed around the world are the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. That is global Britain in action, to say nothing of the billion vaccines that we hope to raise from the G7 this week.
Kirsten.
Mr. Speaker, that would sound a lot better if the Prime Minister wasn't the only G7 leader cutting his aid budget. I hear what the Prime Minister says about vaccines, but we also need clear global agreement and global funding. Hundreds of former leaders, businesses and development groups have called for exactly that kind of leadership at the G7. And that's what we need to see from the Prime Minister this weekend. Mr. Speaker, the G7, bilateral discussions with President Biden and the possibility of a new government in Israel also provide a real chance to restart a meaningful Middle East peace process. The appalling violence recently, which killed 63 children in Gaza and 2 children in Israel, shows just how urgent this is. For too many people in Palestine, the promise of an end to the occupation and a recognised sovereign Palestinian state feels more distant than ever. So will the Prime Minister take the opportunity this weekend to press for renewed international agreement, to finally recognise the state of Palestine alongside a safe and secure Israel, to stop the expansion of illegal settlements, and to get a meaningful peace process back up and running?
These are not the questions that I would have asked today.
Mr. Speaker, it's been a long-standing objective of this government, and I think it's common ground across this House that the solution for the Middle East peace process is a two-state solution. We continue to press for that, and I've made that position plain in my conversations both with the Palestinian Authority and, of course, with Israel. Mr. Speaker, he attacked the government, I think, for failing to be sufficiently ambitious in our overseas aid spending. I think I heard him say that in that compendious question. And let me just tell him, well, he's gesturing at these benches, Mr. Speaker. Under this government, we've spent more, and we continue to spend more.
He's gone in for the aid question because that's something that is
Labour evident. Under Blair, under Brown,
a division
even when they were spending money on Brazilian
some of his
dancers in
MPs.
Hackney to raise consciousness, which is what they did, to raise consciousness of global poverty, Mr. Speaker. We are spending £10 billion a year at a time of acute financial difficulty for this country, and I think the British people
aid,
know
and people are going to die as a direct result. Children are going to die.
And if Labour members want to vote on that matter, Mr. Speaker, and may I just remind them that the people of this country had an opportunity to vote on the way the government is handling it last month, and the balance that we were striking, and I think that they adjudicated
lost in
firmly
Kent,
in the favour of
lost
the government,
in Cambridge,
Mr. Speaker. They
lost in Wales, lost in
pontificate and
Scotland.
prevaricate and procrastinate.
Felicity Kendall, come on! I can even.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You've made me slightly older, yes. I am.
Oh yeah, it's all a big laugh. So basically, this is Felicity Kendall or whatever bloody name is. This is a softball question from the Tories. So I'm just going to mute the sound for that, so we can talk about what just happened. I mean, I would have gone. I don't know why he started talking about Palestine. I know that's an important issue. I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up. It seemed a bit okay. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know why he spent so many questions asking the Prime Minister, or asking the dickhead gobshite, Boris Johnson, why he wouldn't support more, intervention in schooling to bring the children who have been left behind by the COVID crisis, by people being stuck at home, bringing everyone up to the same level. That would have done one question, because you're not going to get a sufficient answer from him. And then I would have gone in. Oh, hang on. Ian Black
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure we're all looking forward to the European Championships kicking off later this week. Can I take the opportunity to wish all the best to our country, Scotland, to Steve Clarke and the team, and to remind the team it is time for heroes. Mr. Speaker, later this week, the Prime Minister will walk into the G7 summit as the only leader the only leader, Prime Minister, cutting development aid to the world's poorest. At the very moment when global leadership is needed more than ever, this Tory government is walking away from millions still struggling from the COVID pandemic and a poverty pandemic. The Prime Minister has been hiding on this issue for months. This is a government on the run from their own moral and legal responsibilities, and on the run, Mr. Speaker, from their own backbenchers. But the Prime Minister can't hide from this issue any longer, and he can't run from democracy in this House. Will he stand up today and commit to a straight vote in this House on his inhumane cuts as demanded by the Speaker? Prime Minister, it is a very simple question. Yes or no?
Oh, his least favourite.
And can, by the way, Mr. Speaker, wish all the very best to Scotland and England and all the home nations who may be playing in this. I don't know whether he's going to reciprocate, Mr. Speaker, but you never know. It's worth a shot. I thought. Oh, you did? Okay, there you go. That's nice of him. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I think the answer is clear. We the people of this country, as I said to the right honourable gentleman, were given a vote on this and many other matters very recently, and I think they adjudicated very firmly in favour of the balance the government is striking. We are in very, very difficult financial times, but you shouldn't believe
can't afford
the
it.
lefty propaganda.
£200 million on a yacht.
From people opposite. We're spending
On a boat.
£10 billion overseas. We've actually increased. All they want to do is run this country down, Mr. Speaker. Run this country down.
Okay, so I'll take that as a no then.
When we've increased spending on girls' education alone to £500 million, almost £500 million, that is a fantastic sum of money to be spending in
aid
times, Mr. Speaker.
for children to have clean water.
Mr. Speaker, I have to say, I don't think I've ever heard the previous Prime Minister, the right honourable member from Maidenhead, called a leftist propagandist. The simple fact of the matter is,
Theresa May.
The simple fact of the matter, Prime Minister, is every single party, every single member of this House stood on a manifesto commitment of 0.7%. The Prime Minister has reneged on that, and the Speaker has indicated that the government should allow a vote on it. It's pretty basic stuff. After a year dealing with the deadly virus, why can't the Prime Minister get this? In a pandemic, no one is safe until everyone is safe. Now is the time to support each other, not to walk away from those in need. People are dying and they need our help. The Prime Minister has the nerve to brag about the government support for the vulnerable, and at the very same time, he is slashing £4.5 billion from the world's poorest. In the week of the G7, what kind of world leader washes their hands of responsibility by cutting water and hygiene projects by more than 80% in the middle of a pandemic?
Mr. Speaker, I may say that I think that the last contribution was absolutely disgraceful, because the people of this country have gone through a very difficult time. We've had to spend £407 billion supporting jobs, families, livelihoods throughout the country, and yet we are continuing to support international vaccination. A £1.6 billion this country has contributed to Gavi. I think £548 million
How many vaccines have we exported?
And let me just remind him of the statistic I mentioned earlier. 1 in 3 of the vaccines being distributed around the world to the poorest and the neediest come from the Oxford AstraZeneca supply. Thanks to the deal this government did, or does the name Oxford AstraZeneca continue to stick in his craw, Mr. Speaker?
Scott Benton.
So I'm just going to cut the sound there. Can't be bothered listening to another Tory sycophant. So Ian Blackford, brilliant as always. I felt that Keir Starmer missed the mark on that. Like I said, I was going to say one of the questions could have been about education. Another one of the questions could have been about cutting financial overseas aid, which both of Ian Blackford's questions were about. And then it could have moved on to sausages in Northern Ireland, and then segued nicely into the fact that Michael Gove, the minister without penis or whatever his position is in the in government at the moment. I'm not sure what that is. This Pillsbury Doughboy filled with crack cocaine. He was found to have broken the law. He was found to have broken the law by giving a shifty contract to his shifty mates at his Vote Leave compadres, also friends with Dominic Cummings as well. We're going over. This is a Scottish guy. He's good. I like him. Hang on.
A Swiss-style SBS agreement union.
Oh.
So far, he's decided not to do that. So why is he prioritising cheap, dodgy beef from Australia
Irish.
over the concerns of the people of Northern Ireland and reducing checks in the Irish Sea?
No, Mr. Speaker. What we're prioritising is the right and ability of the people of Northern Ireland to have access, as they should, freely and uninterruptedly to goods and services from the whole of the UK, and we are working to ensure that we protect the territorial and economic integrity of our country. That's what matters.
Kevin Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's excellent First Homes policy will allow tens of...
Cut! It looks like a Tory to me. Don't want to listen to him. So, sorry, I was, I don't know why I said Scottish. Northern Irish MP over there, making a very good point about sausages, which is what I was going to talk about. Prime Minister's questions going on. I don't know if there's any more you'd like me to listen in on, or whether you just want me to start the show. Let me know in the comments. I can always pop back in now and again if anything interesting is happening. It's a bit hard to sort of host the show and listen in at the same time, obviously. And you only know if someone's asked a good question sort of after the event. But if something explosive happens, I'll be sure to pop in there and point out that Boris Johnson is lying, as nearly always.
Mentioned levelling up. My constituents want to know when it's going to start. The fact of the matter, and I understand that he's lived a life of privilege and doesn't know much about the pumped state sector. He knows a lot about the private sector in education. What are the markers for success? He's head of his own industrial strategy council, says he's levelling up. With these resources, with this management team, will not work and will not be successful. My local Kirklees Council says it's so complex, nothing is flowing down to the grassroots. When will we see the first signs of genuine levelling up in our country?
Mr. Speaker, I think that what you're seeing
Good
across
point,
the country
bad
is
question.
people responding to massive investment, £640 billion programme of investment in roads, in schools, in hospitals, in policing.
He's going to talk about his force new hospitals.
Bit by bit is transforming people's lives, hopes and opportunities. And that is fundamentally the difference between his side of the argument and ours. We believe that there is talent, genius, flair around the whole country, but opportunity is not evenly distributed.
Although you're 5 times more likely to get somewhere in life if you went to private school.
If he's now saying,
like
by the way,
cock.
that he supports what we're doing on the tutoring revolution, because I know he's a great educational expert, then I'm glad to hear it.
Brendan Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Don't know who that is, but I was a Conservative. Brendan Clark Smith. Should we play the little game? Should we play the game that we like to play, which is called let's see what private school they attended. Brendan Clark Smith, MP. Now he's the guy who compared England players taking the knee to Nazi salutes. Do you think he went to a state school? Should we see if he went to a comp? He's actually a year younger than me. Jesus Christ, life's been hard. Oh no, he did actually grow up in a council estate. There you go. Nottingham Trent University, and got a PGCE in religious education. Okay, I'll take it back. Someone's just got onto Wikipedia and gone, I'm going to prove Graham wrong here, because he's always saying this kind of stuff. But I think the fact that he had a bit of a double-barrel name and his first name is Brendan, I thought he might be a bit posh. But no, he didn't grow up on a country estate. He grew up on a council estate. So, still comparing people taking the knee when it comes to making a stand against racism to people doing a Nazi salute. Yeah, I can't say much for the education he received, obviously. Yeah, okay. So I think we'll sack off Prime Minister's questions for now. I'm just going to pause myself. I'm just going to pause for a moment while I go back to my full screen, so you can actually see me. Just one moment. Sorry, a bit of a rigmarole this. I've actually got to unplug something and plug it back in. And then it works sometimes. Here we go. Yeah. And, oh, hello. Why can't you see me? Oh, it's because the screencast is too big. Okay, and I'm going to go big. Woo! There we go. Hello. And welcome to another edition of Graham Hughes' HughesRound. It is Wednesday, the 9th of June, 2021. Well done for making it this far. Yeah, we just had Prime Minister's questions, in which I feel like Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, wasted a lot of questions asking the same thing over and over again in slightly different ways. I think, and also when you're asking the Prime Minister anything, it's got to be really pointed and really quite... You can start off quite broad, but then ask a specific yes/no question and watch him try and wriggle out of it. I think that's the way to go about it. Myself, not that I know everything, but that's what I would do. And I'm amazed that no one's asked him questions about his man, what's his name, Gove, being found to have broken the law. So we've got Rees-Mogg and Boris Johnson having found to have lied to the Queen, broken the law by illegally proroguing Parliament. We've found Priti Patel. She breached the ministerial code and faced no disciplinary action for it whatsoever. We also found that Matt Hancock breached the ministerial code by giving PPE contracts to his dodgy sister's dodgy company in which he owned a dodgy 20% stake. But then, nothing's going to happen. So now we've got Gove having broken the law. And if he goes down for it, I will eat my hat. I will eat my hat live on this show. And I've got some really great news, actually, for those watching. But first, I'm going to say hello to everyone. So hello, Kevin Hegarty, who was there at the start. Hello to Bandon Hardjaps. We've got John Barleycorn there as well. We've got Nick, Damp Scribber, PMQs. Did he just call her Felicity Kendall? No, I don't think he did. I did. Donald Cowie says he will not. UK sales of weapons to the Middle East make big money as City of London is moving out of UK now. Indeed. Perkin Latori, woo, Graham is back in a watchable time. I'm actually an hour earlier than I normally am, but that's because of Prime Minister's questions. He'll never get a sensible answer to his last question. Boris the liar will just grandstand, which he always does. He seemed to get interrupted at the end of it, which was good. Carl Birchall, I bet Johnson does even know which home nations are in it. I mean, yeah. The guy's not particularly bright, but someone pointed out that it just shows how thick some people are. You don't have to be smart to con people. You just have to make sure that the people that you're conning are even stupider than yourself. So SDLP is Northern Ireland Graham. Yes. Sorry about that. I mucked that up. Pot kettle, black kettle. Time we rename this charade for what it is. Prime Minister's tirades. Indeed. Why did he? I don't know. I don't know why Lindsay Hoyle allows Boris Johnson to usurp Prime Minister's questions to make it into a Conservative Party political broadcast. And he uses it to attack the leader of the opposition for stuff that was done by Labour over a decade ago. I mean, it's when Keir Starmer wasn't even an MP, never mind leading the Labour Party. And yet his style of rhetoric is always attack. It's always attack. And that's why he'll never answer a simple yes-no question, like he wouldn't answer Ian Blackford's very pointed question. So he says, what you're doing with aid is morally reprehensible. Will you? And so that's the broad area that you're talking about. So you get that dig in for this morally reprehensible man. And then you ask the actual pointed, technical, yes-no question, which is, will you have a vote? Will you allow this House to have a vote on whether to restore overseas aid to 0.7% of our GDP, because he has cut it to 0.5% of our GDP, in violation of his own manifesto, which he went on to say, oh yeah, people voted for us, people voted for us. No one in Scotland voted, mate, for you. Well, next to nobody. They mostly voted for the SNP. Labour were the winning party in Wales and in the south, places like Cambridge and even in Kent and even in Chipping Norton, for Christ's sake, Labour councillors got elected. Okay, Labour lost Hartlepool, but they had lost that in 2019. As I keep saying, you put the results that the Tories got in 2019, you add it to the result that the Brexit Party got, and you get the Tory result of 2021. But I just hate him. I just hate Boris Johnson with such a passion that I would be really, really excited to read his obituary. That's the only way I can put this in a nice way. It would make me really happy. I'd go out for drinks. Like when I found out that Peter Jackson would be directing the new Lord of the Rings films back in the late 90s. I went out for drinks to celebrate. Yeah, it'd be one of them. Thing about sausages, I suspect the worst is yet to come. Oh, John, you're the worst. The Northern Ireland Protocol. Oh, no, wait, they call it the EU Protocol now. They realise the mess they've signed themselves into. Yeah, but who reads contracts? Come on. Decided to talk about the Euro sausage. That didn't need scrutinising. Listing nothing tangible here. It's all waffle. Well, it's a bit... What an easy rhetorical trick to do is to say, back in the 1970s, the Labour government only gave £16,000 to overseas aid, or whatever it was back then. But, you know, inflation makes a big difference. That's why they always say, well, adjusted box office, adjusted for inflation of something like Gone with the Wind is always sky high. Although I do think it's been overtaken by Avatar, but that's, you adjust for inflation. But what Johnson can do now, because he can't just blame the previous Labour government for everything, really, because it was so long ago, but he'll keep trying. But he'll say, in the last time you were in power, you spent X amount, and we're going to be spending Y amount. And it might be like a little bit more, but in real terms, it's not more at all. It's not more at all. The cost of everything's gone up. The cost of an average house has gone up in this country by 500% since 1990. Brat was the worst joke I ever heard, said HK. Wally Waldo, Johnson is a horrific excuse of a human. John Barleycorn says, I read contracts. Yeah, my partner reads contracts. It drives people up the wall. Nick, Hoyle is just waiting for his place in the Lord. He doesn't care. Give him a dead stoat already. Has the bad man gone? Has the bad man gone away, mammy? Yes, he's gone. Well, unless you're talking about me, I'm still here. I'm not exactly good. Do you like me Wangland mug? Look, you can get yourself a Wangland mug if you go. Hold it properly, Graham. If you go online, you can get if you go to the links under this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, it's a Welsh dragon face palming over the flag of England, St. George. Well worth drinking out of. I've got to update that somewhat. So, quick hello to Carl, to HK, Nick, Wally, Yurosh. Hello, Yurosh. Got Ernie there. Context. Say big hello to Context. Dimtr, you can decide to talk about the Euro sausage. Yes, I'm going to talk about that. Yurosh says, BJ never lacked for anything in his life and got to where he is by winging it without suffering the consequences. What kind of person do you think this would make? Well, Yurosh, this is why I'd love to do a 6 or 7 part drama series based loosely on Boris Johnson's life, and it's called Screw. What if there were no consequences to anything? So it'll be British Psycho. Instead of American Psycho, British Psycho. And I'm aware that the guy who played American Psycho was actually British, because obviously we play the best bad guys. Yeah, British Psycho. That's what he is. Obsessing over business cards and bridges and boats. Must be all that white working class that he represents, indeed. He's still a Tory, plus I think a council estate Tory is worse than the privately educated one, says Willie Waldo. But surprising, gotta say, because usually, 9 times out of 10, I type it in, which posh school did this knobhead go to, and it's usually somewhere very posh. £30,000 a year. Anyway, BJ, Labour wins councils in the south. That might be the reason the Tories want to resize the council's power and move that part to Westminster. Ernie Burns says, I can stand Johnson for about 20 seconds. His lies make me totally sick. His voice makes me sick. I hate the sound of his voice. His voice is just horrible. What we should do is like modulate it or something like that. Anyway, listen, stop. Exciting news. So, did anyone enjoy Three Blokes in a Pub, which became Pubcast, because I couldn't guarantee that we would get 3 people in a pub, never mind 3 men, from one week to the next. If you enjoyed that series, I've got some great news. On Friday, it's coming back, and it's going to be live. So you're going to be able to join in with me and Ben Chambers from 16 Million Rising as we descend on a pub and basically have a couple of drinks in the sun, I hope. We're going to be in the beer garden. And you can take part and you can call into the show using the stereo app. And we can have a big chat and it'll be really good. So if you would like to join in that's going to be on Friday at 1 o'clock, okay? So join us there for Pubcast Live, the first of, I hope, many. And the week after, I hopefully going to the pub with Paul Somerville, my Geordie friend, a little bit north of here, who will be joining me to talk about the experiences of someone who worked in Spain, he worked in Ibiza, and what the situation is now if you are a British citizen without an EU passport and you're trying to work in these places as a young British worker wanting to make their way in life. So yes, Pubcast is coming back. So look out for that. Pubcast, good news. Woo! I know, I'm really excited about it. John Barleycorn, I ran Boris the Liar's voice through a Dalek filter. It still sounds like him and doesn't make him sound any better. He does sound like a Dalek mixed with Billy Bunter, doesn't he? Indeed. So, yay, says Context, 3 blokes. So, we'll be doing that. We're going to try and do it on Friday, weather permitting. If it's pissing down with rain, we're not going to go inside a pub because it's dangerous and we'll have to wear masks and it will just be weird. But if the sun is shining over Durham on Friday, then me and Ben Chambers are going to be doing Pubcast. Maybe we can find somewhere with a roof. Like a beer garden. But then you'd get the rain on the... I've got to think of the sound issues and... I don't know. Anyway, yes. Dalek filters. So, what else has been going on? So, I'll just go through quickly through the news today, so we can sort of catch up. Live PMQ, Starmer grills Johnson on schools. Catch up. I wouldn't say he grilled him. I don't know. Don't imperil Northern Ireland peace. Biden to warn UK and EU. The US president will warn that the UK-EU negotiations must protect the Good Friday Agreement. His advisor says, no surprise there. Mount Recycle More depicts G7 leaders in e-waste. If you want to have a quick look at this, I'll try and bring it full screen. Give me a moment. And then if I screencast, there it is. So this is. Oh, hang on a sec. This is Mount Recycle More. So this is the G7 leaders made out of recycled materials. You can see that there's a computer monitor over here. And backs of old televisions and stuff which is quite cool. I think that's quite cool, don't you? Anyway, so that's been set up for the G7 summit in advance. So the key numbers on the lockdown lifting, the four key numbers that you need to know, I guess, are going to be the number of people in hospital. They're going to be the speed of rising infections, the chance of becoming seriously ill if infected, and for the number of people who have been fully vaccinated. So more than 50% of adults in the UK have been given the best protection possible, which is 2 COVID jabs. So thank you, NHS, for doing that. It's one of the only wins of this government. The only thing that has actually worked out well for this government. Everything else, the economy, the schools, infrastructure, Brexit, everything else has been an absolute disaster. But what these Tory scumbags have got is a lot of fellow scumbags in the tabloid newspapers who are very, very happy to toe the line and come up with weapons of mass distraction so that people get more upset about some absolute bullshit than they do about things that are actually affecting people's lives and causing real, actual distress. So I'll give a little bit of an example here. If I just head back to my screen over here. If we go over to the tomorrow's papers today, but it's actually today's papers today. On the right there, we've got the Daily Express saying, how dare they, Oxford students cancel our Queen. And then if I scroll down a little bit and we get to the Daily Mail, we've got over on this side, outrage as Oxford students vote to axe Queen. Yeah, there's just one small problem with this situation. First of all, it's not, and it should never be, headline news. It is really the definition of not headline news. This is the equivalent of a teenager who has his mates round and he decides to take a poster down off the wall of the lounge while they're having a party. Because basically this is a tiny, tiny group of students in Oxford who have a common room that only maybe, 20 people use, if that. And they had a little picture of the Queen on the wall. And they had a little vote and said, who wants to take this down? And more than 10 of them went, yeah, let's take it down. So they took it down. Gives a shit. Who gives a shit? Meanwhile, Michael Gove has been found to have broken the law. Now, let's play a game, because, I like playing games like the Psycho fella from the Jigsaw films. Let's play a game. And what I want you to do, if I just bring over the BBC News website, sorry, I have to faff around for a moment to get it all lined up for you, because you don't want to see all of the extra workings going on. Okay, so let's have a look. Right, live, PMQs, Dar McGrills, Johnson on school catch-up, Donny Pebble, Northern Ireland Peas, 8 in 10 UK adults have COVID antibodies, lockdown lifting, government acted, here we go. Government acted unlawfully over COVID contracts. So I feel that this should be the main news of the day. This is £560,000 of your money, not mine. Well, a bit of my money actually as well. Taxpayers' money. This is money that has been given to cronies of the Tories. So the High Court has found that the government acted unlawfully when it gave a contract worth over £500,000 to a company run by friends of Dominic Cummings. Ministers have denied any favouritism was shown towards the market research firm Public First, but the judge said the failure to consider other firms could be seen as suggesting a real danger of bias, and that's putting it mildly. Campaigners took legal action against the Cabinet Office over the decision and used the company following the start of the pandemic in March last year and questioned the involvement of Mr. Cummings. Quite interesting there in the whole of the first paragraph, and I'll bring it back up just to show I'm not going mad here. Government acted unlawfully is what it says here. And in this whole section here that I'll highlight, there is not a single use of the words Michael Gove, who was the guy ultimately responsible for this. They've put it on Dominic Cummings. It's very interesting that, first of all, it's not the headline. It's actually there's four stories in. Even though it's a huge story, it is huge. The government found to have broken the law is huge news. I mean, if it was a single mum living on her own just outside Birmingham, and she was claiming a little bit more than she was supposed to claim, so she was getting £74 a week instead of £71, that would be headline news for these crackpots, for these scumbags, for the tabloids, for the people running the BBC News department, which seem to be a Trojan horse sent into the BBC, filled with public school gobshites, which is trying to destroy the BBC from the inside. The impenetrable fortress of the BBC could never be taken from the outside. And obviously someone, the equivalent of Odysseus or Ulysses, has seen this problem and decided to actually go in a wooden horse, and that'll be a great way to destroy the BBC, or at least the BBC's credibility in the eyes of people like myself, and I assume you, who, like the BBC, think that it should remain a public service broadcaster. It does amazing drama, comedy, natural history shows, fantastic documentaries on BBC Four. And yet, the news side of it, the news department, is dragging the rest of the BBC down into the abyss. And this is very typical of the sort of censorship that we're seeing in the BBC. And these gobshites like Lawrence Fox, they talk about cancel culture. They talk about people being cancelled. Well, what do you think happens when you run a news report and instead of it making it the top news, you make it the third or fourth or fifth item on the agenda? It degrades the value, the impact of that news. And I still remember back in April 1989 watching the 9 o'clock news. I hope I'm not getting this mixed up because I was very young at the time, and if someone wants to check this out online, please do and correct me in the comments. But I seem to remember, and I hope I'm not getting my memories mixed up here, I seem to remember watching the news, the 9 o'clock news on the BBC, and the Hillsborough tragedy wasn't the first item on the news. On the day it happened, it wasn't the first item. If someone wants to check that out, whether that's me just misremembering things in my own head or not, but that does seem like something they did. So you can deplatform someone by blocking them on Facebook or blocking them on Twitter, whatever, or not going to see them talk live. Like there's some kind of moral obligation that anyone who has a platform has to allow anyone who wants that platform to use it to slag off the person with the platform or whoever else they want to do, to everyone else they want to slag off. But this is real deplatforming. This is real manipulation. It's gaslighting, because what they're doing is they're making out to people that it's not that big a deal because it's the third or fourth or fifth story down. It's not, is it really that big a deal? They did this over the interior decoration of Boris Johnson's flat. They made it, it's not a big deal. It's only wallpaper. It's only wallpaper. Why are you getting so upset about wallpaper? Which is gaslighting. You know, it's like someone throwing a glass at your face, it missing and hitting the wall, you getting, quite rightly, a little bit upset about that, and them saying, why are you getting upset about a smashed glass? Yeah, that's not the point, mate. You threw a glass at me. So yeah, this is a huge, huge problem at the moment with the BBC and obviously with the other big media outlets, over 60% of which are owned by 3 billionaires, all of whom live in other countries and don't pay tax in this country. And they're all massive Tories, obviously. They'll get away with it. Like they always do, says the melted gammon cornetto. You're not wrong, the melted gammon cornetto. BJ never lacked for anything. Three blokes, yay. Iran, I read that one. The vaccine doesn't stop you catching it, just makes it easier for your body to defeat it. The more infections they have, the more likely it is that a new variant will arise, vaccine or not. Indeed, absolutely. Guess which newspapers appeal to emotional people? Indeed. The only monarch cancelled in this country was Charles I, because we chopped his head off. Which we can do again. We can do that. I'm sure we can do that if necessary. No one's above the law, Charles. Remember that? No one's above the law. The Magna Carta. It's like really weird the way the gammons go on about stuff that they then go on to destroy. So they go on about the Magna Carta, and that somehow means they don't have to wear a mask or something. And you're like, no, it actually means no one's above the law. That's the only bit of the Magna Carta worth a pan of Scouse these days. So. Yeah, and they go on about sovereignty. They go on about Britain. They're destroying Britain, and they've lost shitloads of our sovereignty because the sovereign entity, the sovereign man, being someone who lives on an island, and there's not enough food on the island to feed that man, dies. That sovereign man dies. So sovereignty isn't something where you can just stand on your own 2 feet and survive in your own way. We live in a society. We live in a world in which we all rely on each other. Why? Well, because there's no gold in Britain. There's no tin left that we can mine. There's no coal that's worth anything. We don't have that much in the way of natural resources, and we can't make enough food to feed ourselves. At least 50% of our food that we eat comes from abroad, and when you talk about processed food and things like that, ingredients that go into other food, that percentage goes up to 80%. So we are absolutely, completely embedded in the world. We are at the mercy of the world. Now, if we're smart about it, we can make the most of that situation and say, right, well, we need food, but you need what we've got. But what we've done is we've kicked the ladder away and said, we've pulled the drawbridge up and said, we don't need you. And they're like, oh, so you don't want to buy stuff off us anymore? No, because you're a European country, and we've been told that you're bad by the press. And then you've got the people who are saying, oh, I'm not going to buy things. I'm not going to buy things from the EU anymore. I'm just going to buy British. And they're on the internet asking where you can get British bananas and things. And you're just like, oh, Jesus wept. These people aren't right. But if a company, if it's going to cost them more to sell you something than they're making profit from selling it, they'll just stop selling it to you, because there's other countries in the world. But this kind of disproportionate idea of Britain's place in the world, this English exceptionalism is it's something that I don't know what the solution is to it. I don't know how we get rid of it. I don't know how we do a denazification of the country, which is what happened in Germany after the war. We need something as similar to that, I think, but I can't see it happening anytime soon. Barcelona wants to know if I want to become famous. No, there's not much profit in it. So I'm going to block you. Trojan Horse, I like that. But yeah, like Oscar Wilde said, each man kills the thing he loves. And it's really interesting that these gammon, these crazed, weird, at once very arrogant, conceited knobheads who think that Britain's the best country in the world are also these subservient, lackey, I don't want, don't ask me, thinking is hard, like the Malibu Stacy dolls from The Simpsons. They don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to, they don't want to, they just want to be told what to do. And if a posh person comes along and says, excuse me, I'm incredibly intelligent. They fall for it because they love a posh accent. So that at once they've got this air of superiority about other countries. They say things like, "Well, I might not have anything, but at least I'm not foreign." But when it comes to the actual way the dynamic between them and the government, for instance, it's very subservient. It's horrifically subservient, actually. I just wanted to read you something from what was sent me from the Viz, which I just love this. Hang on. Why is WhatsApp not working? Oh, Jesus. Do you just love watching me type things on my laptop? It's so much fun. What's that web? Thank you. What's this? Started early, poop. Sorry, Jim Bob. I should have let you know. I completely forgot until the dying moments of yesterday's live cast when someone reminded me it was Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday. I think I'm just out of the routine because I took a week off, so I forgot to say, yeah, start a little bit early today. Thinking for yourself, who ever heard of anything so stupid? Yeah. But then you got the problem of the arrogance of people who, and you know that there is a certain type of arrogance that masquerades as humility, and it's really weird. It's like people who are really religious. There's a certain arrogance about that. They if you ask them, they'll say, "Oh no, I'm incredibly humble. But they think that they're busy mates with the entity that created the entire universe. You know, they don't even know Danny Dyer. You know, they don't even know Johnny Vaughan off the telly. They don't know anyone famous, but they have a close personal relationship with the entity that invented the universe. It's a bit arrogant. It's a bit like, oh, just call me mate, George Clooney. Hello, George. And the other thing is, they think they're going to survive their own death. Which again is a bit arrogant, isn't it? If you think about it, but then you could argue getting married's a bit arrogant, isn't it? No, stop! You're never going to meet anyone better than me in your entire life. So we're going to have a ceremony in which you will swear not to look for anyone else who might be better than me, because I am the best you are ever going to get. Let's get married. Having children's really arrogant as well. Do you know what this world needs? More of me. Because I'm that good. Do you see? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? It's like, where do you draw the line? You could argue that having medical procedures is a bit arrogant. Oh yes, I'm gonna get someone else's heart. I need a new heart, and someone's dead. I'm gonna take their heart. Why do you deserve that heart? Well, somebody else. A little bit arrogant. Just saying. But you see what I mean? But the arrogance that we get with the kind of the gammon tendency is this idea that they are part of something that is absolutely brilliant and perfect and wonderful. And people like me and people like you are trying to take that away from them. They're trying to take the one thing that they're proud of away from them. And the shit-stirring tabloid newspapers just love doing this. They just love stirring the shit and getting people really agitated and going, oh my God, they're trying to stop me being British. And there was a meme that I saw on one of the Rage Against the Gammon groups that I'm on Facebook, and it was just a Knight Templar crusader, one of the French people who went across to the Holy Land because they were told to by the Pope. So because some Frenchmen went over to a guy like Richard Lionheart, Coeur de Lion, the guy who spent about 1% of his life in what's now the UK. Yeah. The epitome of Britishness. But he had one of these sort of Knight Templar types, this crusader. And it said, I will fight to the death to defend the country that I knew and loved. The idea that it's being taken away. Look at this beautiful country. Look at it. It's beautiful. Isn't it lovely? I'm going to take it away from you. But I'm not the one doing that. I'm not the one who voted for Brexit. I'm not the one who thought that Brexit would be a good idea. And if one thing is a surefire way of destroying this nation faster than Hitler, Napoleon, or King Philip of Spain could ever have imagined, it's Brexit. Just arrived. Have I missed much? No, I've just been wanging on. Lawrence Flox has very weak-looking chin. Just an observation. Yeah, indeed. So is Mitch McConnell. Every time I see a picture, I feel like shouting at him, where's your effing chin? So is Matt Hancock, actually. He's got no chin either. Patrick McCarthy, I haven't watched TV in years and I'm better informed than ever. Possibly. Context, how is that thing with Russia deplatforming Catherine Belton reported in the UK? Ooh, I haven't even heard about that context, so I don't know if it's being reported at all in the UK because we're pretty useless. Jim Bob, yes, thank you. $5 Australian dollars, which I wanted to show everyone. I actually did this on Twitter, so I'll bring up my Twitter. Hang on a sec. There was a thing that you used to be able to do, and you can't do it so well with the new notes that have come since the last time I was in Australia. But with the old $5 note, an Australian $5 note, you used to be able to twist it in such a way that I'll bring up on the screen now. You're gonna love this. So basically, across. So yes, this is the Queen's chin, and this is her neck, and this is her pearl necklace, and well, I'll leave it up to you to figure out what we think it looks like. I don't know if your mind is as dirty as ours, as me and my mates when I was living in Australia. But yes, thank you very much, Jim Bob, for sending me one of these whale giving a bit of assistance to somebody. Yes, sad whale giving a blowjob. So thank you very much for that super chat. The super chats are open if anyone wants to chip in. I used to do all this stuff for exposure, but as was pointed out to me, many people die of exposure. So money's also good. Also, I'm going to need to buy some beers for Friday afternoon when Ben and I go out for beers. So if you want to help our beer fund, then please feel free to beer us up with beer money. The Queen celebration was cancelled. Yes, the Queen's been cancelled. Can we say that when she dies? Instead of the Queen is dead, can we say the Queen's been cancelled? The Queen has been cancelled by mortality. Wally Waldo, Loser Fox's reaction to losing Nico is incredible. Nico has a YouTube vid of how he won. Losing to Nico. Nico has a YouTube vid of how he won the election. I don't know. I haven't seen that. Like button smashed, says Hulk. No, sorry, it was Glasgow Kiss. Hello, Glasgow. How you doing? Do you think these voters are fine with cutting aid because Boris is supposed to be levelling up and conveniently xenophobic? Indeed. Oh, Canal, thank you for my 10 Singapore dollars there. And just let you know that my phone is working at the moment. So if anyone wants to call me on stereo, I'll just set this up. Feel free to call me, and we will discuss the matters of the day. I'm going over a bit here. Oh, I've just been sent I hate it when people send you a link. You know, when on a chat or whatever, they just send a link and send anything else. And I always think, oh, don't send me a link because I don't want to click on it because I don't know what it is. Oh, hang on. I just pressed the wrong app. Oh, I'm not very good at this. I was multitasking. Right, stereo. Okay, there's stereo there. And I will plug that in. So if anyone wants to get me on stereo, feel free to give me a shout via the stereo app, and we'll try and get it working. It was working for me the other day, but no one called up. Although Charlie called the other day when it wasn't actually plugged in. So yes, damn work, missing the stream again. He read Yeats, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. It's very true. That's very true. Well, you know what? I don't lack conviction. So I don't know how true that is, but yeah, you're right. The people who are the worst are the most sort of noisy and stuff. Maybe I'll try and put myself forward as a bulwark against that to say, hang on. Like, we can be passionate. We can be the ones shouting from the rooftops that this is wrong, this is abhorrent, what this government is doing is sick and twisted, which it is. It's just wrong. It's wrong on every conceivable level. Just to give you some idea of the wrongness of all this, the aid to Yemen, this is a tweet from David Schneider, aid to Yemen has been cut by 46%. To Syria has been cut by 56%. To counteract polio, that's been cut by 95%. For girls' health has been cut by 40%. For sexual health and education has been cut by 85%. That was the point that I picked up on, and also Ian Blackford picked up on as well. 85% for sexual health and education, and clean water. Sorry, I was talking about clean water has been cut by 80%. But at least we can afford a 200 million yacht and billions on contracts for government pals. And yeah, one of the questions that I've asked a few times is, where's the rage? Where's everyone getting fucking wound up about this? You know, like getting really, really agitated. And what I feel like we need is we need a left-wing tabloid, one that appeals to people's emotions, one that appeals to some of their baser instincts. But the Bylines Times is great, you know, love it. Financial Times, really good reporting. The Guardian's pretty good. The Independent's okay. But they're all a bit emotionless. They're all a bit Data from Star Trek if only I was a real boy. We need some fire. We need some anger. We need some people smashing fucking things up and saying, well, metaphorically, don't smash things up. But, you know, getting out the bullhorns and saying, no, fuck you, to, you know, the people in power. That's what I think. Anyway, we're having some marches, some protests in a couple of weeks' time, which I'd love you to join. I'm going to try and go to as many as possible. I think there's one in Manchester and there's one in Newcastle, which I'll be definitely going to. And if there's one in Liverpool, I'll be going to that as well. And that is on the weekend. I think it's, it's 2 weeks today. So it's starting the 23rd, which will be the 5th anniversary of the Brexit referendum, when all of this bloody disaster started. And some people have said we shouldn't mark it. We shouldn't mark the anniversary of the Brexit referendum because we lost. And I'm like, well, actually, no, I think that we should, because that was the moment that I knew, and a lot of other people realised, you know, obviously the next day when the results came in, the next morning, that Britain was lost. That was it. You know, we had all lost. It wasn't just the people who voted to remain. It was all of us had lost. So yeah, if anyone is thinking of setting up a tabloid style newspaper, the New European, again, good newspaper, but there's no fire in it. There's no appeal to emotions. There's no like getting people pissed off enough. I'm reading it with absolute fury of what the government's getting up to, which is horrible. I don't want that to be what we need, but I get the feeling that it's what we need because people are just not fired up about this. The people who are fired up about anything are losing their shit over fucking statues, over some students taking down a picture of the freaking Queen. You know, that's like, they're getting wound up about what people are doing in their own bedrooms, or or young people not wanting to be the gender that was assigned to them at birth. All this culture war bullshit that they get so upset about. Meanwhile, we're getting distracted by that because we get dragged in as well, because we end up going, what are you talking about? But at the same time, like, we're not addressing the real issue that we have. A bunch of criminals in charge of this country. A bunch of criminals. I mean, Jesus Christ. No, just no. Like, this shouldn't be happening. This should not be happening. Not on our watch. 23rd of June, UK Demagoguery Day, indeed. Is that a word? Demagoguery. Eurosh, it's the year 2080 and the British still chanting long live the Queen, but they're starting to get a tad suspicious, indeed. Maybe they'll pickle her and put her in a big jar. Put her in a cupboard and wheel her out for debates once a year, like they do with Jeremy Bentham. What's the topic today? Queen celebration cancelled. I don't know what the topic is. I'm just all over the shop at the moment. The topic is let's have a chat. Carl Birchall says, and the same people who cheer this will be the same idiots complaining about immigrants. Indeed. A Brexiteer has told me that Scotland will never become independent because England pays Scotland. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes, David, that's what they all say because they're full of shit. As I explained yesterday, I think it was, when I, live on air, I looked up the population of Scotland and the population of of Norway, and it turned out to be the same. And we were going, oh, but we've got a trade deal with Norway, and musicians can go and play there now. Yay! Can't play in France or Luxembourg or Germany or Spain or Italy or the place, the EU where 450 million people live. But the place where 5.4 million people live, yeah, we can go there. Play a few songs in Oslo. Break Norway. That's what they always say. Once you break Norway, there's no going back. Queen in the Jar has reminded me of the Blake 7 episode Morlock. The Express spews out fury every day to keep its fan base angry. What can we do? I think we need to do the same. If you can't beat them with sticks. No, join them. I honestly, I think we should have a tabloid-style newspaper that really puts it like it is. But like, get some satire in it. Get the writers of the Viz. Oh, yeah, I was going to read to you before I got distracted by my own talking. This is absolutely magnificent. This is from the Viz. Oh, come on, you bastard! Hang on, I'm gonna have to just download it. Sorry about this. I love it when things don't. Things are a bit more difficult when you're trying to talk, read things, and open stuff all at the same time. But I think getting there. Oh no, I've just closed the window that I meant to show you. One second. I will be with you presently. As soon as I get this picture open. I don't even know if this is going to be worth it. Actually, because the way it's printed, it's not congenial to. Oh, I'm not looking at downloads. I'm looking at pictures. It's not congenial to being able to read on the screen, I don't think. But we will give it a go. Why not? So yeah, this is from the Viz, and they rip off the tabloids in the Viz a lot. And one of the things they love doing in tabloids is they love doing like a head to head of like the Boris Johnson and Theresa May, or this cricketer and this footballer or whatever. So they take the piss out of it, and this one was who's the best Lawrence, and I think they had like Laurence Olivier and Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen or something, but one of them was Lawrence Fox. And the bit that I really, really like, if I just open up this window so you can see it, is the bit about nepotism. So I'll just read this to you. Nepotism. As a teenager, plucky Lawrence left Harrow School with a seemingly unattainable dream: to become a famous actor. Starting from the very bottom, he worked his way tirelessly up the theatrical ranks despite having no contacts in the industry except for his grandfather, grandmother, father, uncles, aunts, brother, sister, brother-in-law, and various cousins. Against all odds, Lawrence's natural talent shone through, and he has managed to achieve a truly glittering acting career without any assistance from family or friends. And to me, that's the sort of thing that I'd love to see in a newspaper, just absolutely mercilessly ripping the shit out of these talentless hacks. The only reason why he ended up on Question Time was because he went to Harrow, and the person who selects the guests on Question Time was basically a bit of a right-winger, privately educated gobshite, and made sure that for the 6-7 years that she was in charge, they had Nigel Farage on the show dozens of times, and they didn't have a single pro-EU MEP on the show at all. And they invited people like Lawrence Fox and other shit actors. Well, actually, they had the guy who played Gimli, and also Salah in Indiana Jones, Jonathan Rhys Davis, I think his name is. I'm probably misremembering that. They had him on, and he was a horrible little gammon sod as well. He was like, "Woman, will you listen to me, woman?" It was really cringy and embarrassing. I don't know why they invite actors to come on Question Time. I don't really get that. Politicians, yeah. Activists, yeah. People running pressure groups, yeah. That makes sense. People involved in the news, I guess. But actors, should we get some singers on as well? See what they think. Not to say that if you're an actor, you can't be involved in politics in any way. I'm just thinking that you possibly shouldn't be invited on Question Time, which I think should be a politics show. I mean, do they allow, like, I don't know, Keir Starmer to, like, turn up in an episode of The Bill? Then again, Tony Blair was on an episode of The Simpsons, wasn't he? David says, this friend told me the 1st of January, Happy New Year, that the Independence UK will start in another level. Thanks. I didn't went to bed. Yeah, indeed. Adrian says, at least some of the fatalism over Britain's future is a consequence of how deeply entrenched Leave voters are in a concocted and comforting but nationally suicidal vote Leave fantasy world. Indeed. Queen in a jar. If you can't beat them, use a baseball bat, says Glasgow Kiss. I like the way you drink. Who do you say fuck to? I didn't hear it. I don't know. Who did I say? I don't know. All of them. All of that lot. Adrian says, the Brexiteer claim of sovereignty dividend as applied to modern Britain is overwhelmingly nominal and abstract dividend and delivered at the cost of real world enfeeblement and diminishment. Yeah, indeed. We've basically taken ourselves off the team and we think that we can win the World Cup alone. And when I say alone, I don't mean as a country. I mean literally one player rather than a team. We seem to think that because we have got like one good, really good player. So, we don't have to send out the whole team. We just send out that one good player and they can represent, they can do the whole game. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't matter how good that one player is unless you play 11 people as a team. You're not going to get anywhere. To be fair, Fox, I suspect Fox is absolutely loathed by his family, so probably didn't help him. Oh no, but they would have done. Because, I mean, it'll call them up, and when you're a teenager, they might not know what gobshite he was. What was he thrown out of Harrow for, by the way? Does anyone know? It's probably bullying. I heard years ago that Ron Rhys Davis was a dick in real life. His appearance on Question Time was only confirmation of that rumour. Yeah. I think he was also the only one of the fellowship who didn't get a tattoo. I think his stunt double got the tattoo instead because he wouldn't do it. Now, I'm not big into tattoos. I think they look good on other people, some of them. But if I was in Lord of the Rings and I was one of the Fellowship, I would. I just would. I don't know where I'll get it. Probably somewhere, but no one would ever see it. But I just would. But yeah, maybe it's part of his religion or something. But he does seem a little bit difficult. We don't even have a really good player. Yeah, Ernie, that's a good point. But no, actually, we were. I can see why people fall into the trap of thinking that Britain is better than it really is. I get it. I get why people sort of look at Britain and think we've punched above our weight. And we have. I mean, you look at the size of the country and you think, well, we managed to do a lot. But then again, sizes of countries is it's all relative, I guess. Algeria is the biggest country in Africa at the moment, but its population is pretty small comparatively. Most of it's desert. Canada looks bloody huge. In fact, the distance from one end of Canada to the other is greater from the distance from Halifax, Nova Scotia, over to the UK. It's a huge country, but only 40 million people live there. It's actually quite a small population. In the middle of America, most people in America live on the coast. The vast majority live on the coast. Inland, especially go 100 miles inland, there's hardly anyone there. Bloody ghost town. It's tempting to look at a map and say, oh, we're only small and we managed so much. Whereas now the countries that we talk about a lot are the US, which is it's literally a big country. And then you've got the China, which again, big country and big population. Russia, big country, pretty big population as well. And you look at a map and you think, well, they are big countries and we're only little and we achieved all this, but we're only little. It's kind of a false equivalence, really, because if you think about it this way, Britain is a very densely populated island, but also we exported a shitload of people from this country. We exported a shitload of DNA from this country that went all around the world and populated other countries. You could argue that a good few of the millions of people who live in America have got British DNA in them somewhere. And so saying the same about Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and other places around the world where British people went. If they'd all stayed on the island, Christ, there wouldn't be anywhere to move. That's so many millions of people living on this island. So you probably end up with like 500,000 people who added it all together, who could trace their ancestry back to this island because we went out. So even though we're looking at the this island and going, oh, it's really small, and we did all this stuff, it's pretty false. What would be a better thing to compare against, rather than comparing against America now, would be France or Germany back in the day. Like France had an empire as well, on which the sun never set. I mean, actually, arguably, it still has. It's a fun little pub quiz question. Which country has the most time zones? And everyone goes, oh, it's Russia. It's not Russia. Definitely not China. They only have one. No, it's France. Why? Well, because they've got French Guiana, they've got Martinique, they've got islands in the Atlantic, they've got islands in the Pacific, islands in the Indian Ocean. New Caledonia, they've got French Polynesia, for God's sake. That actually straddles the international date line. So there's compared to France then, and then you think about, well, all the contributions that France has made to the world. I would argue that there are more French words in English than English words in French. I would also argue that when it comes to innovation and the things that we use in our modern day life, Nobel Prizes, all that kind of stuff, France, it boxes above its weight for its size, if you're going to look at it that way. So, I think that Britain's always done all right, but it hasn't been like... It's been fortunate. And I think that's something that... It's quite... I hate using the word nuance because it's something that twats use to say, oh, no, but the point's more nuanced than that. But I'm going to use it anyway. It is a bit more nuanced. Using the word that he hates. Than just looking at it like, oh, but we can compare ourselves to a country that's in the Middle East or somewhere and say, well, we've done all this, and what have you done? There's a couple of problems with that. It's like, we were very, very lucky, and people never, ever look at luck when they appraise themselves or what they've done or what they've achieved or what their country's achieved or what their football team or rugby team or cricket team has achieved. But luck has a huge part of it. Serendipity, just being in the right place at the right time. And then you've also got the point that fuck it. I mean, you didn't do it. I didn't do it. Someone else did this stuff that we're proud of. This, where we punched above our weight. That was someone else doing that. Alan Turing was another person. It wasn't me. Winston Churchill was another person living in another time, and they're dead. Most of the people who built the modern world are dead now, and we dance on their achievements and go out, and then we take their achievements for ourselves, which is kind of a weird thing to do. No, it's just a bit odd. Go to Egypt and you look at the pyramids and say, oh yeah, we built that. Did we? What? What? Yeah, but we're humans, you see. So, because humans built that, I get to take some of the credit. So I don't think it works like that. We won the war. You didn't. You didn't do anything. You've never fought in a war. You never picked up a gun. You weren't there at the time. If you were there at the time and you fought, well done. But that wasn't me. That wasn't you. That wasn't the gammon getting enraged every turn of the page in the Daily Bloody Fail. And so, I think what we have in this country is a very distorted view of our place in the world. And that is placed in the context of history, geopolitics, culture, law, everything. We have this idea, this outsized notion of our influence on the world and the way that the world ended up, well, the way that the world is. And as a result of that, a lot of people have this dickheaded idea in the back of their head that the rest of the world owes us. And that's really dangerous because in my view, we owe the rest of the world. We owe the countries in Africa for supplying all the money through slavery and then through colonization. They supplied that money that we built our great cities on. And we built our railways, infrastructure, the roads. And so we owe them. And one of the things that I would like to do when I'm in charge is make sure that we make up for it, pay some reparations, make some apologies. At the very least, take the Ben and Bronzes back to Nigeria, or the Parthenon marbles back to Greece. I mean, that's the very least we could do. Anyway, so sorry, I was ranting on a bit there. I lost a few of the messages. I think Edward Fox, Lawrence's uncle, helped the referendum party too. Oh well, he's scumbaggery must have run in the family. If you really exported so many criminals, why are they in charge of you now? Well, that's what I make a joke about Scousers. Is we're the Australians who didn't get caught. Reunion. Yes, longest internal flight in the world is Paris Reunion Island. Spent a bit of time in Reunion. Climbed up the Piton. It's the name of the highest peak. Piton. Which is like a volcano. It's like an active volcano, and they have signs on the way up, and it's where the lava got to, and it's like every year they have an eruption. It's one of the most active volcanoes in the world on Reunion Island. It used to be called Ile Bourbon after the French royal house of Bourbon and also the biscuit. And then after the revolution, it got changed to Reunion, which just means meeting. It actually just means reunion, actually. A great little island, and has a ferry service that runs from Reunion to Mauritius and then back to Madagascar as well. So if you ever want to travel the world without flying, it's actually, if you can get to Madagascar, you can get to Reunion and you can get to Mauritius as well, which is pretty cool. I watched the 2012 election in America when I was in Reunion, and everyone was very excited about Obama being elected for another 4 years. Great days. Anyway, Britain had a huge empire, the sort of greatness of, Britain great again. Leavers seek through Brexiteer defined sovereignty today, minus Britain empire is just an incoherent mega absurdity. Yeah, and this is that idea that they owe us, that the people in the Commonwealth, people join the Commonwealth, or countries join the Commonwealth, because it's mutually beneficial for them to do so. And it's not to suckle at the teat of Mother Britain. There's nothing to do with it. It's not the British Commonwealth. It's the Commonwealth. And it makes it easier for countries to trade amongst other countries in the Commonwealth. And also, politicians get to go on jollies to other Commonwealth realms and stuff. There's certain benefits of being part of the Commonwealth. But it's a kind of a bit of an informal club. And countries are free to leave if they want to, and some countries like Mozambique actually joined the Commonwealth when they were never part of the British Empire. They were never colonized by the British. It was a Portuguese colony. I think Rwanda has also joined, but Gambia's left, and I think Fiji got suspended for a while, but I don't think they were that arse, to be honest with you. But this idea that the Commonwealth is going to ride to our rescue, is going to ride to our relief, is just a fantasy. There's 54 countries in the Commonwealth. I think it's 54. I'm going to look this up now because I don't want to give a wrong number. The Commonwealth of Nations. 54. Good guess, that, wasn't it? There's 54 countries in the Commonwealth. There's also 54 countries in Africa. Interestingly enough, thank you. If you want to split the world up into quarters, if you go Africa, about 54 countries, Europe, about 50 countries, Asia is about 50 countries, and then America Pacific, so you have to include Australia, New Zealand, and Tuvalu and all those little places, and then add that to the Americas. There's 35 countries in the Americas itself and Caribbean, and just add the Pacific nations, there's 12 of them. So basically you end up with a total of nearly 50. And that's a good way of splitting up the world if you ever want to split it into 4 for whatever reason. But the Commonwealth of Nations is spread out all over the world, obviously. And it includes Canada and Australia, and they're big countries. But it also includes a lot of little, tiny, little wee countries as well. That you've, especially in the Caribbean, or the West Indies, and around Asia, Africa. There are a lot of little diddy places. Obviously, India's a part as well, which is a phenomenally big country and provides the bulk of the 2.6 billion people who are in the empire. Sorry, the empire, the Commonwealth. Oh shit, I fucked up there, didn't I? Who are in the Commonwealth, but. Yeah, one of the main points I'd like to make about the Commonwealth is I'd love if the wiki page would just give me a list of members. Oh, it's a different page. It's a different page than the member states list. Okay, so let's go through some of these places. Antigua, we've got a population of 94,000. It's a tiny, tiny country. The Bahamas is tiny. Barbados, Belize, Brunei. Dominica is 72,000. It's tiny. Grenada, you've got Kiribati, which is just 117,000. You've got the Maldives, which is only 500,000. Not many. Malta, which is 422,000. It's actually one of Europe's microstates. Nauru, which I talked about on the restream chat. The Discord chat the other day. That's got a population of 10,387. So yeah, New Zealand, a country that Brexiteers love to bang on about, has only got 4.6 million people. It's not that big. And then you've got places like St. Kitts and Nevis, which is 56,000. St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Samoa, the Seychelles. I mean, these are really small places. Tuvalu is 10,116 people. In fact, I think Tuvalu or Nauru might be the smallest member of the United Nations by population. I'll have to check that, but I think they are really, really, really small countries. And as a result, there's not that many people in these places to sell stuff to. So they're not going to come riding over the hill to our rescue. And here's the other thing. We look down the list, okay? Now, forget about how many people live there, but look at places like Bangladesh, Cameroon, Eswatini, the former Swaziland, Ghana, India, Jamaica, Mozambique, which I mentioned, Nauru again, Nigeria, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and Nevis, Rwanda, St. Lucia, Sierra Leone, Solomon Islands. These countries don't have much wealth. They don't have much in the way of a GDP. And the GDP per capita of these countries is tiny. It's absolutely tiny. And so you've got 54 countries. And if you take out India, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you're left with 50 countries. The GDP of all of those countries, the 50 countries left behind, I could list them, but it got really boring after a while. The GDP is less than the GDP of Germany. It's less than the GDP of France. No, the GDP of the UK, actually. All those countries put together. Actually, it'd be 49 because I'm obviously not including the UK in that. But that is... It's problematic because it means that there is wealth, I guess, to a certain extent, but it's spread out all over the world. It's miles away. And the people living in these places don't necessarily have the money, the wealth to buy the stuff that we make. And we only really make stuff for affluent people. We only really make stuff for middle class people. We don't do the sort of thing that a lot of people in the developing world want or need. Cheap electronics, cheap food, and cheap clothing, cheap building materials. We don't do that. We don't own that sector of the economy in any way, shape, or form. And so the idea that we're going to turn our back on the Commonwealth, turn our back on the EU, but it's okay because the Commonwealth's there as a security blanket. It's Narnia. It's La La Land. It's ridiculous. Cuckoo Land. It's off the charts in terms of its fundamental silliness. It's just daft. Again, going back to my little skit that I did for the Dragon's Den skit that I did, where I said it's just like basically telling all these countries to F off for some reason. Actually, I wonder if I have. This would be good. Since you're all here, I wonder if I have my video that I made of Dragon's Den. I'm going to type in dragon. I'll come up with my Dragon's Den. What if Brexit was pitched on Dragon's Den? Yeah. Okay, so you can probably hear the music really quietly there coming through my headphones. So if you haven't seen this already, some of you probably have, but this is a little skit that I did back in the day. It's a while ago now, but it was a skit on Dragon's Den. So I'm just lining up the picture correctly, so you can watch it. So you can watch it with me. Yay. Video. Full screen, please. Thank you. So this to me sort of sums up what the problem is with Brexit in a nutshell. I made this back in 2018, so it's nearly 3 years old now. But I will share it with you in a moment. I'll make it. I'll make it full screen. There we go. Sorry, I recalibrated everything to show Prime Minister's questions, but there we go. Okay. And I've put like a UBR thing in the top corner there for you. So bit of an advert for UBR. Universal Basic Radio. Right, let's go. So we'll watch this. Here's my take on Brexit if it was pitched on Dragon's Den. Hello, my name's Graham. I run the 5th biggest sweet manufacturer in the world, and we make gourmet sweets, quite expensive sweets. And I'm here today to make you an offer that you can't refuse. At the moment, we sell most of our sweets to wealthy customers who live nearby. What we're going to do is we're going to tell these wealthy customers who live nearby to f*** off. And instead, we're going to try and trade with poor people who have no money and don't really need sweets on the other side of the world.
I'm not quite joining up the dots with that journey.
This is not for me.
Say I'm out.
I'm not going to invest, and I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm not going to invest, so I'm out.
I'm out.
Anyway, so yeah, that was my little 1 minute Dragon's Den skit, because that's what it is. It's like going, we've got these wealthy people who live nearby, and we're gonna sack them off. And it's not just a case of telling them to F off. I mean, it's actively going after them and making them the enemy, which is something that we've done for some reason over the last couple of years, which is just sad. It's just sad and embarrassing and so wrong-headed on every level. I didn't think I'd go this long, actually. I thought I was going to do it now, a long show, but you weren't there, man, says Bayabag. Where we really excelled was in writing post-war international treaties. We were key in human rights, global justice systems, safety standards, and in world trade. Then acted like it was imposed on us. Yeah, Ernie Burns, really good point, that. We now 100 said we also noticed the British achievements more because they're British achievements. A French or Russian achievement won't be noticed as such, rather than just the origin not noticed because it's not British. Yeah, true. Adrian Wilson's agreeing with Ernie Burns here, saying Britain is a major beneficiary of systems and institutions over many years. But most voters simply have no conception or understanding of this. So enters the demagogue. Indeed. It's coming up to 2:45. Do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to keep going till 2? I'm going to read a few more questions, statements here. And then if you like, we can head over to the Discord server. But I will make a little bit of a request. If you could smash the like button, or just tap it, you don't have to smash it. If you've not subscribed to the channel already and you enjoy this and you want to know when I'm going to be online, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon, and that'll give you a notification on your phone whenever I go live. And I back in November when I started doing these live shows, I would set up the live cast like later in the day. So you'd end up getting like 3 messages. You get one saying, oh, Graham set up a live cast. And then you get another one saying it's 1 hour to the live cast. And then once it started, oh, is he doing a live cast? And that was irritating. So I just have it set up now. So you'll get one notification and it'll be when I've gone live. So if you want that, hit the subscribe icon and then hit the little bell notification icon next to it. And then finally, yeah, super chats are on. So if you would like to give some money to the beer fund for the weekend, please do. I honestly don't spend much on beer. Most of it goes on like food and rent and heating, which for some reason we still need up here in the north. Don't know why. I thought it'd be a really good idea to come this close to Hadrian's Wall, but I thought that my ginger face fuzz would see me through, but might not be the case. So yeah, just if you're interested. But we're going to go over to the Discord server after this. So if you'd like to come over to Discord, you're very welcome. It will eventually only be open to everyone who is my Patreon or is on the YouTube membership. At the moment, we've only got Cash Dummy and Glasgow Kiss who are YouTube members, but if you want to do it that way, that's fine. Either way, it's £3 or £4 a month to sponsor me to continue making these videos, and I will continue making them as long as you continue to sponsor me, while I've still got a song in my heart and air in my lungs. Anyway, so yes, back to your messages. Sorry. A little bit of an advert there, wasn't it? But back to your messages. Baybeck, and this is where Graham's political career ended. Reparations is like the kryptonite to the heart of thinking. Mate, I don't think my political career ever really started. Jim Bob Robob, we absorbed, educated ourselves and invented a whole bunch of science, engineering and culture. Now we underinvest in all of them and other countries are whipping our asses at it, yeah. When I talk about reparations, I mean, I wouldn't even look at them as... I wouldn't sell it to the electorate as that. In the same way that if I was going to join the euro, I wouldn't say, let's join the euro. I'd say, there, let's keep the pound, but then make the pound worth the same as a euro. Simple. And then everyone gets to keep the Queen on the money. That makes them happy. They've got little pictures of the Queen. You know, if the court's short, need a wank or something. I don't know. They need pictures of the Queen in their wallet. They've got, pictures of her. Yay. Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd be a bit sneaky about it. I wouldn't leave the EU. I would have just given everyone blue passports and told them we had left the EU. So they wouldn't know. They wouldn't care. So when it comes to reparations, I wouldn't call them reparations. I would call them overseas investment. I would target the countries that we have screwed over in the past and make sure that we invest in stuff that we set up that helps them. And in the long term, that helps us. And this is something that people don't really see. They just see, why are we giving money away to foreigners? And it doesn't work like that. Overseas aid is, and that's another thing about the Commonwealth. A lot of the countries in the Commonwealth are recipients of the overseas aid that Boris Johnson is cutting. So they're going to have even less money to spend on our trinkets in the future, on our financial portfolios or whatever it is we're going to sell them. And so, yeah, there's a problem where people go, oh, overseas aid, you're just giving money away. You're just giving money to these people. It's like, no, we're not. We're investing in these countries. And the more we invest in these countries, the better it is for us. Because it means that those countries then, we don't get refugees from the country, which I don't mind refugees. I think that people that are fleeing war, persecution, if they're going to be killed, if they stay in the country because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, whatever it is, they leave a country and they want to go and come and live here, fine. We signed up to the UN Declaration of The UN Declaration of Human Rights, which I leave a little copy of on my desk at all times, just in case I need to, put it up. What is it? Article? Which does anyone know off the top of their heads which article it is? I should know this, shouldn't I? Wouldn't that be boss? Everyone has the right to education. Everyone has the right to nationality. Oh, here you go. It's Article 14. Thank you for whoever said that in the chat. I don't know if anyone did. Everyone has the right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. If you are forced to flee your home because of human rights abuses, you have the right to seek safety in another country. This means that border police or other authorities may not refuse you entry or return you to your own country without proper consideration being given your request for asylum. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I think it's something that people should have on their tables. December the 10th, 1948. That was signed by Britain. We signed up to that. However, I understand that a lot of people have a huge problem. I don't understand. I'm saying I know that other people have a problem. I don't understand where they're coming from. I think they're scumbags. Selfish arseholes. But they don't want people from other countries fleeing persecution. How about we stop the persecution happening in the first place? Eh? Do you know what comes of that? First of all, if you educate women, the best contraception money can buy. You can spend loads of money on condoms and public information things and bit banners and things like this. But at the end of the day, if you want to stop the population boom in the world, in anywhere, any country, you educate women. Because then women say, well, I don't want to just be a baby machine. You improve the medicine in a country. It means that less children die. Less children die means that people have less children. Because they don't have to have 7 just in case. People can start enjoying their lives. People start enjoying their lives, start making some money. Then they're more likely to buy stuff off you. They're more likely to buy your little trinkets. They're more likely to buy your carbon nanofibers. If they've got no money, they're not going to do that. If they've got no money because they've got 7 children, they're not going to do that. It's beneficial for us to invest in these foreign countries. And this doesn't seem too complicated to me. But when I explain this to people who are very racist and stupid, they get very angry at me. No, I just want to give our money to foreigners. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. You've got to be smart. But the thing about Brexit is it's not smart. And that's why it appeals to people who are dickheads. It appeals to people who are thick as pig shit. And you go into any village and speak to the village idiot and say, did you vote for Brexit? 9 out of 10 times they'll say yes. Speak to the wise man of the village who sits there cross-legged and, thinking about the problems of the world. No, I'm voted to stay, mate. I'm the wise man of the village. Bit sexist, but, You've got to wonder, though, like, any conspiracy theory or anything put forward, postulated, any bullshit spat out by the tabloid piss press, you got to look at it this way. Is this easy to believe if you're an idiot? That's the question you want to ask. If I was an idiot, would this be really easy to believe? The answer is yes. It's probably bullshit. Oh, actually, no, not just if I'm an idiot, is this easy to believe, but also, would this give a wise man or a wise woman, would this give them pause? Because anything that you look at where the idiots go, yeah, this is amazing, and then the people who actually know what they're talking about, the scientists and the engineers and the people who can actually put stuff together and know how the world works, they go, no, don't think that will work, mate. We've got a problem with this. We've got to address that. And so, yeah, I think that's a good little, obviously I've got an internal northern bullshit meter. Just, my bullshitometer, which goes off the charts every time I read something in one of these tabloid newspapers or press release from the government, as it's also known. I think that we need to reassess what we take our pride in as a nation. And sport's fine. Gareth Southgate wrote a brilliant piece yesterday, which I really, really recommend. I'll actually put the link in to the chat if you want to have a look at this, you want to have a read of it after, because I'm going in a minute. But it's well worth having a well worth having a look at this piece that he's written. Oh, come on. I'm just waiting for things to load up. Don't mind me. It's my 56k modem, steam powered. I have to keep topping it up with oil. Keep the parts moving. Yeah, here you go. It's called Dear England, and it's on the playerstribune.com. I'll just put that into the chat here. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Okay, nice tiramisu. Oh God, I really want tiramisu now, David. Oh, you made me so hungry. I was just going to go over to Discord. I'm actually going to get some food first. So you have to wait for me. That's okay. You can all chat amongst yourselves before I come along. Johnson and his acolytes will continue to just lie to the media and simply assert Britain to be world-leading, world-beating in XYZ, cynically knowing Leave voters will lap it up. Indeed. When they use the map to try and justify their Brexit ambitions, we should point out the map of the world at night. Europe shines like a Christmas tree, demonstrating its actual economic significance. It's a good point. It's a very good point. People think that Europe's a lot smaller than it actually is. It's 500 million people, at least. If you include Russia, it's actually way over that. It's more like 600 million, 650 million. In fact, why didn't we look it up? Let's do this. I love finding out the populations of places. Population of Europe. Oh my God. It's 746 million. So it's nearly 750 million people. So we're well on our way to 1 billion. But yeah, it's a lot of people crammed into a very small area. Whereas Africa, the population of Africa, I think is just over 1 billion. I will check. If we can spell Africa, that would help. 1.2 billion is the population of Africa. Population of the Americas is 1 billion. Pretty much bang on. It's 1.002 billion. And then you've got Asia, which is this sort of outlier, I guess, because the population of Asia is insane. It is 4.5 billion, and that's because India and China are both in Asia. But yeah, don't forget as well, what we regard as continents are purely not fictional, but they exist, but they were man-made. It was just a convenient thing to say, well, that's Africa. That's obvious. That's Australia. That's pretty obvious. That's North America. Pretty obvious. South America. Pretty obvious. Europe, though, it really is a peninsula of Asia. You can't really get around that fact. All the other continents have a definitive body of water around them, except for Europe. And it doesn't encircle it, does it? With the tiny little isthmus of, Panama or something, or in the case of Africa, I guess you can call it Suez Canal, the point where you leave Asia and you enter Africa. But that point, the Sinai Peninsula, is pretty small. It's a pretty tiny little bit. It separates off these big continents. Whereas the separation between Europe and Africa, it's the Ural Mountains. I mean, hello, what? Hey, who made that up? The Urals. Most people have never even heard of the Ural Mountains. And it divides a country. It's not even two distinct countries. What's going on there? So yeah, it's if you want to call it Eurasia, which is probably what it should be called, our population suddenly skyrockets to 5.25 billion, which is quite impressive. And we can say, oh yeah, we're all in it together now. I don't know if anyone wants to do that, but you can take a train from Scotland. Take a train from Scotland, not the same train. Obviously, you have to get off a train and change trains now and again. But you can get a train from Scotland to Vietnam, to the south of Vietnam. One day, if Cambodia builds a train track, we might be able to get a train all the way from Scotland to Singapore. That'd be cool. One day. The Commonwealth is not a trade bloc, much less a single market and customs union. Empire days are long gone. Yeah, I know. It's. I didn't mean it was a trade bloc. Did I say it was a trade bloc? I meant it was like it's more of a community. A community. That's a bad way of putting it. It's more of a club. It's just a drinking club. No need to pronounce Grenada like the Yanks. Well, how do I say Grenada? Did I say Grenada? Grenada? Granite? No, I don't know how to say Grenada. Mark D, when they use the map to try and justify, I've read that one. We all know Priti Patel called people in the UK the laziest people in the world. Is it possible that Boris is relying on this being true, so he thinks people won't bother revolting and just complain? Yeah, I think he. I think he does think that, but I think he might get a rude awakening if people start getting really, really fucking wound up. Then we could be entering a period of instability, political instability, an intermediate phase. You know, like in Egypt, where they had like the old kingdom and the middle kingdom, and then the new kingdom, and then in between they had the intermediate, the warring states phase. I think it was called. It went on for hundreds of years, and then eventually another pharaonic dynasty grew out of it. But it took a long time. The Commonwealth members have already said they don't want to be Empire 2.0. Yep, very good point. This friend told me about Gibraltar. He told Gibraltar is denied all negative news about Brexit. I don't know if that's true. One of my mates in Gibraltar, Phil in Gibraltar, actually. He's quite aware of what's going on with Brexit. And when I went to Gibraltar with the three blokes in the pub, we spoke to a lot of people in Gibraltar, and they were very clued up about Brexit and how much it was going to mess things up for them. Glasgow Kiss, none of the Commonwealth countries want to return to colonialism and British exceptionalism. Once bitten, twice shy, indeed. The Commonwealth is not a trade bloc. I've read that one. Often when Britain destroyed their economy, they started the war. In hindsight, this applies to many countries, not a good prospect, indeed. Also, wars are started by governments either feeling impotent nationally. It's happened a lot with American politicians, where they had the first couple of years and they could pass laws and things because they had both houses of the Congress. And then midterm elections come along. Suddenly everything they try and do is blocked. So they go on daft military adventures because they've got almost unlimited power when it comes to international politics, whereas domestically they can't do shit. By the way, what's happening with UBR lately, Graham? It's still running. If you go to ubr.fm and you can listen to whatever's on at the time. Me and Lee need to have a good chat about it, actually, because we need to sort something out. Because at the moment, Lee's putting a lot of effort into making it work, and he's not getting paid for it. And I feel like we should be trying to get some kind of subscription model going or something, just to, not so Lee gets boosters for doing it, but we sort it out a little bit. Also, it'd be really cool if this show was on UBR, but we haven't sussed out the tech for that yet, so I can just come on live when I do my live shows, and then it goes off and it automatically plays the rest of the playlist. Elton John said, it's clear I'm European, not stupid British Empire colonialism. Indeed, yes. RC, isn't the Tory government, with all the EU bashing, flag shagging and immigrant abusing, just trolling operation to annoy its opponents? Yeah, I think it is, RC. But also, by the same token, I think there'll be a point where people are like, screw this, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. And I think that they're pushing, really, really pushing. And I think that if things go up this summer, which they might, in terms of them, young people taking to the streets and smashing stuff up, which could happen. It happened 10 years ago. I think on the back of that, we might see something pretty awful happening if this government continues on its tack that it's going on, because it is, for its culture wars, it's bullshit, it's gaslighting, it's English exceptionism, it is stoking up, it's like tinder dry forest in Australia, just waiting for that spark. As far as I'm concerned, it's a very dangerous predicament for this country to be in at the moment. I would recommend a grab bag. Let's see how we get on. But at some point, I've always got a grab bag because I always know where my passport is. I always know where my backpack is. Get the hell out of here. But I think that might be a good idea at the moment. Quite right, said Tesseract 54. Judging by our form of the last few years in the Australia deal, I doubt Brexiteers are interested in working out what sectors, any sectors they seek to advantage in trade deals. Indeed. Is there a chance that Patel said reduce foreign aid, the foreigners will think the UK is a poor country? Sounds crazy, but not impossible at this stage. I don't know. Patel is just the worst human ever because she sees it as her right to be a Nazi because as someone British born of Indian descent, who brings in laws that means that her own parents wouldn't get into the country. Her own parents wouldn't have got into the country had it been for if they tried to get in under Patel's laws. But she sees it like, oh well, just because I'm an immigrant, I'm not gonna allow people to think that I think like immigration is a good thing because that's racism, really, isn't it? Bless. She's not too smart, that woman, and I really hate the way she sounds, kind of posh, but at the same time she drops her G's in her words. Pineapple Boy, my being late fine. Hey, £2. Thank you very much. Your mum says bye. Hi, bye, mum. Europe, a culture-rich, geographically small continent, indeed. Well, the Brexiteers voted to leave Europe and join Africa. Yeah, I certainly remember my brother turning to me and saying, "I've got a lot of time for Nigel Farage. I have." Europe's previous name was Christendom. Yeah, indeed. The Commonwealth has no purpose to exist. Yeah, but even Christianity, I mean, it started in Asia. It didn't start in Europe. Arguably, it started in Africa, in Egypt. I prefer Thames to Granada. Thames to Granada or Grenada? Grenada is a European country and Granada is a city in Spain and a defunct TV company, indeed. Although on my TV show, when I went to Grenada, the voiceover, which sounded like it was a guy from Preston who did the voiceover. He said Grenada instead of Grenada, and I was like, I get quite upset about those things. Granada in Spain is an area to the south of Spain, not an island. Yes, I've been to Granada. Been to Granada a bunch of times. Used to stay in a village called Nigueles. She's just a few miles away from Grenada. From Grenada. I'm doing it now. From Granada, and Granada is also the place where the Alhambra Palace is, which I really, really, really recommend anyone going over to Spain to go and visit. It's a beautiful, beautiful palace. The last guy who had the palace was Bobadil, and he was chucked out in 1492, I think, by Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. And there is a bluff overlooking the palace, and the Spanish call it something like the Los Últimos Suspiro del Moro, which means the Moor's last sigh, which is the name of a Salman Rushdie book, which is really, really good. Not quite as good as Midnight's Children, but it's still really, really good. And it's got one of the best end lines of any book that I've ever read, which I really like. Talking about wanting to awake in a better time. And I think a lot of us have wanted to do that, to dream and awake in a better time. Pineapple Boy says, yes, Alhambra is nice in the summer. It is pretty cool. Tom Bobadil, yeah. Graham, your voiceover is the same that Jamie Oliver. What? No, not Jamie Oliver. He's a fat-tongued bloody idiot. Priti Patel, Gremlin Bride. Yes. Do you know what, David? Every time I look at Priti Patel, I think of Gremlins 2 now. The bride from Gremlins 2. Okay, so I'm gonna head off now. I'm gonna head over to the Discord server, although I am gonna get some food because the talk of tiramisu has made my tummy rumble. So I might go and have some toast. Show us your bookshelf one day, Graham. Be interesting to see that. Yeah, well, what my original plan was to bring different books down to have on the table each time that I was here. I've got like an insane amount of Lonely Planets. But also I've got a lot of like books that I've read. But the thing is, a lot of books that I've read I don't actually own because I read them when I was traveling, and it was a tradition when you're traveling is you swap books with people. So you finish a book and then you give it to someone else. And what we used to do is always write your name in the front of it, and it would say this book belonged to, and it would have like a big list, and you'd see how many people you get and listen, and obviously give it on to somebody else, pass it along, which was always fun. Okay, so I'm gonna do the invite people over here. But what I like to do when I was traveling, I always like to read literature about the place that I was in. So when I was in like Dominican Republic, I read the short and wonderful life of Oscar Who. When I was in India, I read The God of Small Things, White Tiger, Midnight's Children. When I was, I read Shame, which is actually set in Pakistan, but near enough. It really enriches the experience of reading the book if you're actually in the place that the book is set, because it brings it alive in the way that, maybe I just don't have that great an imagination, but obviously when you can smell and hear the country that you're reading about at the same time that you're reading about it, gives an extra dimension to it. I read Lord Jim when I was in Borneo. I read Nostromo when I was in South America. So yeah, but then there's other places where I was reading the book and it had nothing to do with it. Although I read Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I read that going up the backwaters of Kerala in India, which is a really great place to read that book because it's all set on the river. It's set on the River Congo, but good place to read it. HK, £10. Well done. Yeah, thank you. I don't know what he's saying well done for, but thank you very much. Be careful with that green hair, gremlin. Is my hair going green again? Just keep my hat on. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. I'm just going to... I've got a brand new Patreon card today, which also includes my YouTube members. So I'm going to head off, and I'll be over on the Discord channel in about 5-10 minutes. So I'll join you there. I've put the link in the chat. You can see at the bottom here. That's the link. It will self-destruct after 6 minutes. The Road to Rejoin chat is tonight at 7:30. I don't know if we've got any guests. Should I check? Do you want me to check if we've got any guests tonight? But it's at 7:30 tonight. If you would like to attend and have a chat with everyone, if it's a chatty one, you are very welcome to do so. Grassroots. I am Grassroots. I love it when you do a search and it doesn't actually bother searching. Come on, search for me. Brits Abroad. Is this tonight? Oh, fantastic. Okay, so Sue Wilson, who joined us on one of the Three Blokes in the Pub when we went to Malaga, and Debbie Williams are going to be on Zoom tonight from 7:30 onwards. So if you would like to attend, if you aren't signed up already to the Grassroots for Europe mailing list, head over to the rejoineu.uk website and sign up to the mailing list, and I will send you a link to this Zoom chat. As usual, for ones where we actually have guests coming on, it's a ticketed event, but the tickets are free, and there's an option to give a donation to Grassroots for Europe, which helps the different grassroots groups around the country. So yes, please get onto that. Sorry, I would have done a better bloody advert if I realised. I thought it was just a normal week. But yeah, Sue Wilson is the chair of Remain in Spain, and Debbie Williams is the founder of Brexpats Hear Our Voice. So if you were there for a really good chat that we had the other week with Cozy Durfell Hill and Eleanor Remigi about the experience of being an EU citizen here, you can join us tonight and you'll be able to hear about the experience of being a UK citizen in the EU since the Brexit vote. So well worth checking out, well worth joining us for tonight. So hopefully I'll see you there. If not, I will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock for another round of HughesRound, and then I'll be back again tomorrow evening at 10 o'clock for the next instalment of Hughes of the World, and I'll try and have... it will come with at least 90% less sunstroke this edition, and we'll be talking about the southern African country of Botswana. Yeah, old Bechuana land, which is what they used to say when the planes were circling above and basically they put booby traps all over the runway, and they shouted up at the sky, Bechuana land. Okay, that didn't work, did it? Right, I'm going. I'll see you next time. Until then, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.